What's going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Lineup NBA DFS podcast and live stream recording for Thursday's 4-game main slate. James, I feel like we've had a little bit of a good run here lately. I know roster construction is always a big piece of being successful when it comes to DFS, but the playbooks we've had out lately, the Discord conversations that have been going on, I feel like we've been putting a lot of the right names in the right places, and you and I at the very least know we've had some successful last few days here. Hopefully you guys watching the streams at home are also having some similar success with your lineup and roster constructions there, and hopefully we can move forward here. 4-gamer today. I definitely suggest on these slates generally to play a little bit lighter than you normally would when it comes to your bankroll, but we have some top tier guys here on this slate. Obviously Jokic and Luka Doncic are on this slate here today, so two guys that can go ahead and give you 80 plus fantasy points. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of value we come across here today to kind of help fit those guys in your lineups.
Yeah, we probably have 3 of the top 4 in the MVP race right now, and Luka, Jokic, Tatum. Probably, I would like Giannis is probably the 4th member of that. Quartet. So, a lot of star power, even on a 4-game slate, John Morant included as well. So, should be a fun slate. All the totals, Sean, over 228.5. All the spreads within 7 points. We got Memphis and Houston as the 2 teams on a back-to-back. So it should be a fun slate. Like you mentioned, it's going to largely be determined by who's in and who's out. Like right now, the most notable injury designation is Paul George, who is traveling with the team to Denver. He's listed questionable. They removed Kawhi Leonard from the injury report with an illness, but we know how Kawhi Leonard injury goes. Until the last bell, there's a chance Kawhi is not going to play.
We have no idea. We hope we have an idea, but we have no idea if he's going to be playing or not.
And then the Magic are really the other key components. I guess we could always see teams rest players. Houston likely rests Eric Gordon. He hasn't really played back-to-backs this year, so he probably sits for Houston. Will Memphis rest anyone after they got to rest the whole 4th quarter on
right? Well, they may be resting guys again in the 4th quarter in this one against Orlando. So,
right. I mean, the good thing is Orlando is getting people back. Franz Wagner is back.
The Bol already ruled out health and safety protocols for tonight. So
Bol out again. So we saw a full complement of minutes from Wendell Carter last night. So it's going to be an interesting.
Do you think he's limited at all? First back-to-back for him here?
We'll probably get word. I think we got word ahead of time on Wednesday where they were like, Wendell Carter is going to start. There's going to be no limit. So hopefully we get that same thing. I don't suspect he would be limited after being able to get through 30 minutes. He looked really good. 13-point double-double. So I would suspect Carter's a full go here.
Okay. Let's get into it. Point guard position here. Luka is at 12-6. He's at home. He's facing Boston, who he had 42 actual against in their first meeting. Luka actually has, Luka has ridiculous stats against a lot of teams. Luka's done really well against the Celtics. The Marcus Smart has had no effect on Luka, probably because Luka's just as strong as Marcus is, right? Like Smart
he's so big.
He's a fat, fast guy, right? Like, Luka on the court is just like a square. He's just a brick. So Smart's really good at being physical with a lot of these other guards in the league, and Luka kind of like Harden at times, just kind of bodies up people because of their size. So he's had a lot of success. He was 17 of 28 shooting in that game against Boston earlier this year. Again, we're never going to tell you not to play him. He's 12-6. He's more expensive than he's been in recent games. He's working his way back up to that $13K price tag that we saw him earlier in the year. Last slate, though, you didn't have to play him, right? Last slate, he went for 68 fantasy points, Believe it or not, he wasn't
only 68.
a 39, 12, and 8, double. They're nearly a triple double.
Jesus.
But like 68 fantasy points is actually a win for fading Luka, right? Like, that's 5x, right? Like,
except the guy who won the 100K with Luka somehow.
Yeah, well, he had a pretty strong lineup there. Didn't need him though. Well, he also had Donnie Mitch. Didn't he have both of them?
Yeah, he did. Luka, Donnie Mitch.
Yeah. He didn't play LeBron. He played Luka over LeBron and played Donovan Mitchell. So, listen, I get it. He wasn't the reason you would have lost, I guess is what I'm saying, right?
Correct.
Because I didn't play him. I cashed. It wasn't a big deal there. So,
Same.
On a smaller slate though, you're going to be making that decision today. Are you going to spend the 11-8 on Jokic versus the Clippers? I feel like I will. I feel like that's probably the spot I'm going to end up going. But we'll see how the roster builds come out here today. Under Luka, you got Ja Morant at 10-4. I said yesterday, again, if I was picking one, I was picking LaMelo Ball over Ja Morant because in a blowout, LaMelo Ball is playing the minutes. Lo and behold, 27 minutes out of Ja Morant. LaMelo played 35 in a game. That was a 26-point blowout or a 24-point blowout here. I do worry a little bit that Orlando could find themselves in the same situation here because Memphis is just really good. So I don't know if I want to spend the 10-4, but there's two spend-ups at point guard, and then we go right into the 7Ks. So, do you have interest in Ja Morant here on a back-to-back?
Yeah, for tournaments. I think on a small slate, given his 70 fantasy point upside, I think it's hard not to look at him and be like, yeah, I could definitely see myself getting to Ja. The problem is, like, let's say you play Luka or you play Jokic, right? Like, assuming 3/4 of the field has one of those two guys, there's not a lot of value.
Yeah.
We talked about it because there's not a lot of guys that are out. So, like, if you play Jokic Morant, you have $4,600 to fill out the rest of your lineup. Like, that's just not a comfortable roster construction for me. So I think a lot of lineups, you want to be contrarian, you play Ja Morant, right? Sure. That's your contrarian spend to Luka. That's your contrarian. It's the same thing with Tatum. Morant and Tatum are in the contrarian spend up category.
If you had to pick one, Morant or Tatum, which one do you choose?
Morant's in a better spot. You know that I don't typically target guys against Dallas. They are very slow to. Now, they've been a little worse defensively since they've lost Dorian Finney-Smith to injury and they've moved their rotation around. Like Christian Wood's now starting. And they've been better as a team. They've won 7 straight games. And Dallas is better. But
they're scoring
more,
right?
They're scoring more. They're not defending more. So it is worth mentioning that Tatum's in a better spot than I think than I probably am.
He torched them in that first game. He went for 37, 13, and 5.
Yeah, and Finney-Smith is their best perimeter defender, and he's not there. So, like, that's worth mentioning. I would probably lean Morant. I think Morant's in a really good spot against Orlando. Not to say Tatum's not in a good spot himself, but Dallas still does play really, really slow.
I'll say this. Boston's struggles on the road, I think, get slept on a bit. They lost a lot of games on that big West Coast swing that they went on. And they just lost by 50 to OKC. So
that was just the most points OKC has ever scored, and they didn't have SGA.
Right. So, I think one of two things can happen here. Either they bounce back from that, and they come out and just, give Dallas just, a total focused game here. Or Boston continues to struggle on the road. That's certainly something that could happen here. Luka goes out there, punches them in the mouth early, scores 16 first quarter points, and now Boston's down 13-14 and the game's over, right?
And Dallas is good at home. We've talked about that all year. 15-5 at home this year. Yeah. So it's winners of 7 straight. This is going to be a heavyweight. Bout. I think Dallas really coming into their own with their new starting lineup. So yeah, I agree.
It's two MVP guys going back and forth against one another. Sure. Boston just lost to Denver on the road as well. So LeBron, Tatum is not doing well against some of these other MVP candidates here. Yeah. When he's not at home. So, Something to consider there. Middle tier of guys here. Kevin Porter last night, again, 31 minutes. It was a tough spot. We talked about it.
Yeah.
He didn't really play well against the Pelicans the first time they played. Didn't play well again last night. Easier matchup here in 2 games against Utah already. He's averaging 45 fantasy points on DraftKings. So, how many of those games was there no Mike Conley maybe worth looking into? But, I guess I can actually go down and find
Conley's played in both.
Played in both. Okay, perfect. Listen, Kevin Porter's in a better spot here. It is a back-to-back, but I don't mind it. Also, like Clarkson, had Clarkson in my lineup the other day. He's just kind of locked in for 30, and he has a ceiling of 45, right? Like, so if you're okay on a smaller slate, which we talk about a lot, we want 5x, we want 6x, but on smaller slates, like, some guys get you 4x is enough because not many guys give you a 4x at 30 fantasy points, right? Like, they come in lower. So, I'm good really with a lot of these guards here in this middle section.
I'm like a little indifferent about Clarkson at this price just because as Utah has gotten healthier and I know Sexton's out, he's just like set and nothing against what Clarkson's doing. He's scoring consistently 20 plus points every night, but the peripheral stats are very, very inconsistent. And 73 is like not a discount. And I guess my struggle is like, and I've been touting Mike Conley a lot on this podcast lately. Why not just play Mike Conley, who has shown like a similar ceiling floor combination lately for $1,600 cheaper, especially on a slate where we're struggling to find value, right?
Yeah.
And now, to your point,
I was definitely getting to Conley. Love Conley today. Probably going to be a core play for a lot of lineups.
Clarkson in that instance is definitely a contrarian play because I don't think a lot of people will get to him. Because the build, the construction today, if they're like, let's say nothing changes, right? Let's say like Paul George is the only person ruled out, and like which is that's a pipe dream. It's the NBA,
right.
But let's just say hypothetically, it'll be hard to get to Clarkson because like you're gonna either have Luka in your lineup or you're gonna have
Jokic. A Luka Leonard Conley build start gives you $4,700 a player.
So imagine it's Clarkson, right? Like that's why I think I'm having problems with like getting to Clarkson instead of like just spending down. But there's the tournament appeal of Jordan Clarkson because if Jordan Clarkson goes out and scores 35, he's going to be sub 10%, sub 15%. So I don't disagree. I'm just talking through the process in my head. Like everyone's going to gravitate to Mike Conley, and I feel like that is the correct play. But in a tournament, couldn't fault you for getting to Clarkson because he's going to be severely less owned.
Yeah, no, listen, I was going to get to Conley. I like him a lot here as well. I think Jamal Murray at 7K, again, a guy that has shown ceiling. Last 2 games against Miami and Minnesota didn't really get there. The minutes have been great for him, though.
Yep.
And if he goes out there against the Clippers tonight and drops 25, 5 and 5 or something like that, and he gives you 46 fantasy points, you're smashing. So, more to your point, no one's going to play Clarkson when they can save $300 and play Jamal Murray against the Clippers this season. 1 game, 45 fantasy points, 21, 6 and 9 in that game. So, where does Jamal Murray rank for you? Is he your mid-tier guard? Like if we're ranking these tiers, you got Luka, you got Jamal Murray, and then you go Mike Conley is like your lower value guys?
Probably. I like KPJ. I liked your call on KPJ quite a bit for tournaments specifically. I might rank KPJ a little ahead of Murray because I like that. I really like the Utah spot. I mean, we've seen it. Like Utah cannot play defense. Like they cannot stop anybody. Utah in the last 5 games have given up 117, 126, 126, 112, 126 points. Like they cannot stop anybody. No Eric Gordon, I think, gives a little bit of bump to Porter too. So I'd probably go Porter, close second to Murray in that mid tier.
Okay. Fultz has been playing well, but he's the minutes they're all held well. The Suggs played tonight. Let's see, did he play yesterday?
He's questionable. We already got a status update. He's officially listed questionable.
Okay, yeah, he was potentially able to return yesterday, but then they ended up ruling him out. So we'll
How
see.
do you think they handle this? Because Cole Anthony got 30 last night, and I think that's probably because Franz was out. But like, how do you think Suggs plays into this equation?
I mean, he was their starter, so
Is it gonna? Do you think that they go back to like a more traditional lineup where they're starting Fultz and Suggs, where then it's like Franz at the 3, Paolo at the 4, Carter at the 5, and then you're bringing.
I mean, maybe. I guess it could certainly work that way.
Because they started Gary Harris and Caleb Houston last night.
Yeah.
And
Caleb
obviously,
Houston
again,
was the unlock that you needed too. He actually had a pretty decent game at min price.
and it was because of suspensions, obviously.
Yeah. But you got $3,400, 21 fantasy points. That would have helped you get a lot of guys. For those of you out there that played, Trey Mann, right? Caleb Houston was the guy. So, Trey Mann, tough night for him. Paul Reed, 0 minutes out of nowhere, man. And he was 12% rostered in contest yesterday.
Yeah, it's brutal.
I mean, we all know what that's like. We played Darius Baisley, so guy doesn't. Seems like this guy's ruled out. He has to play. Coaches think otherwise sometimes. So.
Yep.
And two of the coaches that would do that to us too, in OKC and Doc. So the guard positions will certainly be interesting to see how they handle it. Were they starting 2 guards together earlier? Were they starting Suggs and Anthony? Is that how that rotation was going earlier?
Yeah, I believe so. Because Anthony was definitely starting earlier in the year, and then he wasn't. Let's just look. I'll look early in the year. Let's see what's going on here. They were starting. Nope, Cole Anthony not in the not in that example. I'm just looking through box scores to see what Orlando was doing, and I just don't have any examples. So
okay,
Cole Anthony has only started 3 games this year.
Oh, there you go then.
But Fultz has started every game that he's played. So what they've had a guard problem for a while now, right?
Jalen Suggs isn't a typical shooting guard either, right? So they gonna have to Cole Anthony to me profiles more as a 2 than he does a 1.
Yeah, he's just small.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate for him. He's I agree. He's just a smaller guy.
Sure.
I don't know what they do. They could start 2 of them. They could start 1 of the 3, which would obviously Suggs isn't even in. We'll find out about the lineup later, and then we'll discuss it in the Discord. Yeah. So make sure you guys are around.
All right, other value guys here. Brogdon got blowout minutes. Derek White played 21. Hard to really
Brogdon get wild to get that Brogdon's getting blowout minutes.
Yeah,
insane.
Kind of difficult to figure out how that rotation is going to go with those 2 guys there. The Clippers guards are both going to be active today, so I don't think you can play either of them unless you have a difference of opinion there.
Reggie Jackson is something. He's there. 30 minutes in 3 of his last 4. So he's clearly playing over John Wall. If there's no Paul George, I think there's potential there. Also, I just want to note, I don't know if Desmond Bane sits the back-to-back, but he did sit the last back-to-back.
Sure.
Since he's back from injury. And Tyus Jones played 32 minutes and had 42 fantasy points. Yeah. So that was with Ja. And Ja was in the lineup. So it was a really sharp play. I think it's definitely something.
Is it weird that he only played 15 minutes in the game where they won by 24 yesterday? Why wouldn't he get more run as the backup?
Did they give Kennedy Chandler? They gave Kennedy Chandler 7 minutes. He's a rookie, so maybe they were just like Tyus. I think Tyus was also injured going into the game.
Okay.
So probably he had an illness. So maybe let's just rest you. We're up 30. We don't need to put you back on the floor.
All right. Shooting guard position here. Jaylen Brown is $9,500.
That is so expensive.
Getting a little expensive. He did go again. Him and Tatum both had really big games against Dallas. He had 46 fantasy points in that one, 31 actual. So Tatum and Brown both went and scored 30-plus actual against Dallas there in their spot. Franz is 68. You mentioned Bane potentially on the back-to-back. Jalen Green at $6,600 is a pretty good spot for him.
Paul George, too, by the way.
Yeah,
if he plays.
If he plays, right. If George plays, we're definitely in. Wasn't just skipping him. We're just assuming maybe he doesn't. But
he travel with the team is a good sign.
I agree. They are starting Tim Hardaway Jr. He's been decent. So $5,800 a mid tier. Any interest in Dylan Brooks if Bane sits?
Yeah, if Bane sits, sure. It's just like this guy is such a wild card.
Yeah, I mean, so is Norman Powell as a wild card.
Yep.
You've been a big Malik Beasley guy. You nailed his call the other day. 33 fantasy points for him against Sacramento. It's just you picked the right Beasley day. That's all. That's all it is.
Yep. Yeah, if he's making shots, they'll play him.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know why he didn't stay on the floor versus Miami, but different discussion, different day. Yeah, if he's making shots, they're going to play him. No Sexton benefits Beasley, so tournaments for sure.
Who would start over for George, Mann or Kennard?
Who knows?
And would you play either of them?
Yeah, I mean, probably you play the starter. Probably. I don't know. They flip. Toronto, another one of those like. I think Toronto's a good coach, but his rotations are wacky.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Anybody else here?
I didn't see anything.
I didn't see anything either.
If Beal sits, John Contra.
Okay.
I'm not Beal.
Bane. Yeah,
Bane. Sorry, Bane.
I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Yes, not Bradley Beal.
Not yet.
Bane.
Not yet. Maybe someday.
Not yet. Maybe
someday.
Yeah.
Small forward, we got Tatum and Brown. Talked about it. Both are in play. Tough spots. I told you the other day, like Lauri Markkanen was like a must. I get it. 39 fantasy points, kind of meh. But he had 28 actual, so I don't feel like it was a loss. It just he didn't give us the peripheral stats that we generally get.
Yep.
He had 8 rebounds, just 1 assist, no blocks, no steals. He only hit 1 3. So, 39 fantasy points at 8,800 feels like a loss. But what I told James that day was, and it doesn't really apply for this slate because there is a lot of small forwards, but on smaller slates where it feels like there's not a lot of good talent at that position, most people tend to just spend down on it and spend up. Mm-hmm. So if you want to get different, you actually spend up at this spot, take the top price guy, then kind of get different. So I played Markkanen on the 3-gamer on Wednesday, and he was like 24% rostered, which on a small slate is actually pretty low owned. When everybody else is 50 plus percent. So, if you want to get different at tournaments, it's definitely a way to approach certain position groups where you feel like there's not a lot of great talent at it. This isn't obviously one of them. You have Tatum, you have Brown, you have Markkanen, George, Kennard, Banchero coming off of a big game. Like, there's a lot of small forwards you can play. That said, Houston is also a pretty good matchup. Now, Markkanen hasn't had great games against them this year. He's only averaging 30 fantasy points in 2 games against Houston. That feels odd given how successful he's been this year and how bad Houston's been defensively, but I'd be willing to run it back here.
Yeah, I mean, I think he probably fits in the same category as Clarkson where, like, nobody's going to get to him.
Yeah.
Because he's probably too expensive, but his ceiling, even more so than Clarkson, is 60. I think we've seen 70 from him earlier this year. Yeah, 60 a couple of times. Yeah. So just the way he's scoring the basketball, as a Bulls fan, I wish, the Bulls had someone like this. I wonder if they could have ever had someone like this. Right. I fully agree. Like, he's going to be lower owned. And again, he's going to be low owned because it's tough to play him plus Jokic or him plus Luka. Like, it's you're going to have to really find a dumpster dive couple plays. But if Markkanen goes for 60 or at 60 at 5%, it's like, well, now we have a GPP winning lineup on our hands.
Yep. You mentioned George may or may not play. Obviously, I think regardless, though, $8,100 for Kawhi Leonard is a good number on this slate. Even if he does play, he's shown the ability to give us 40 fantasy points plus playing with Paul George. We know what his ceiling can certainly be without Paul George. Again, Banchero at 8K, probably nobody gets there with Franz back and Wendell Carter playing full minutes, plus he's $100 less on DraftKings than Leonard, so most people just play Kawhi. So if you want to be different, you certainly can go in that direction. Mid-tier guys, like some we've talked about. We didn't touch on Michael Porter Jr. yet. Any interest here?
Yes, Michael Porter in tournaments. Probably in play. Could see Kawhi if Paul George plays. Definitely will see Kawhi or Paul George, and that's not like
Sure.
the best, most fun matchup on the board. So for tournaments,
I don't know where to go after this. There's not a lot. This is not
if
a lot
Gary
of fun.
Harris starts, maybe 27 minutes,
Yeah.
26 fantasy points yesterday.
I think, with everybody back, it feels hard to think he'd start, but we don't know the rotation, I guess. So
KJ Martin has started for Eric Gordon pretty much every time there's been a back-to-back involved. So
sure.
I assume Eric Gordon sits. I assume KJ Martin starts.
Okay.
And he's $3,500. Again, very roller coastery ride.
Yes.
But there's no value. There is no value. Like you stopped after Michael Porter and you said, I don't know where to go.
Yeah, I don't know.
There is no value. I think KJ Martin presents a little more value, to the slate.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I think 3,500 KJ Martin is something I'm willing to explore.
I agree. Power forward, again, talked about most of these guys here. We'll get down to Christian Wood, who we haven't discussed yet. We've talked about Christian Wood's move into the starting lineup. He's been a monster. Tougher spot against Boston, but just a really good offensive player here. I would expect Rob Williams and Al Horford to be in this game here. They have Tatum. Does that worry you at all about Christian Wood at all? He did, again, against Boston, he had 44 fantasy points. So he had a really good game against them back in November 23rd, 34 minutes, 10 of 14 shooting, 26 and 12 in that game. I don't know if that was a game that didn't have, an Al Horford or somebody in it. I know there was no Rob Williams. So let's see. Did Horford play? He did. Horford played 35 minutes in that game. So yeah, I don't know. Christian Wood just had a monster game there against Boston.
Yeah, I think Christian Wood is just you and I love the fit in the offseason, and then they just didn't start him, and you're like, I don't really understand this. Yeah. Luka had 42, Wood had 26, and then Dinwiddie had 15, and that was their whole. I'm just looking things over. Dwight Powell played 11 minutes in the starting lineup. They just look. There's obviously Horford and what's his name looming, Rob Williams, but Wood's gonna take them both to the 3-point line. I think he won't have a problem there. He's been
Rob Williams was actually one of the best closeout bigs last year, if you remember.
Sure. But it's also he's also only playing 20 minutes.
Facts.
So we're going to get if this was later in the year, probably we'd see more Rob Will, I'd assume.
Oh yeah.
Christian Wood also been super consistent on the blocks in the blocks department. Had 5 blocks against Houston, 4. He has 2 or more blocks in all but one of his last 10 games. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm okay getting into Christian Wood for whatever format you want to use him in.
I like it. $1,000 cheaper. Aaron Gordon's been playing some of the best basketball of his career. I don't know if that continues against the Clippers or not, but against the Clippers earlier this year, he went for 50. So
he's just kind of good. I know.
Good.
I know it's hard. I know it's hard for you to admit it, John.
He was the original Donovan Mitchell. So
he was the original Donovan Mitchell. Look, I think the evolution of Aaron Gordon, the DFS player, is on display on January 2nd, where he goes 4 of 18 from the floor, but he grabs 16 rebounds, has 6 assists, and he gives you 44 fantasy points.
10 or more rebounds in 3 of the last 7 games, it looks like. So, he's crashing the glass. 6 or more rebounds in 5 of 6 of those 7. Last 2 games, he got 13 total assists.
Yep. The steals have been there. The double-digit scoring has been there, and we're getting booms, too, every so often. Look, I think Denver finally figured it out how to play, everyone figuring out how to play with Jokic, right? He just makes things easier, and I think that's on full display for Aaron Gordon.
And that's what's frustrating about playing Jokic sometimes, too, is that, he'll have a game like he did the other day where it's 24, 6, and 6, and it's because everybody else around him was just open. And, so, he's not as, he doesn't take over, he can take over, But
he's not Luka.
Because he's not a point guard, right? Like they have to get him the basketball, where Luka just has the basketball.
Yep. Exactly.
Maybe they should change that. Just have
maybe.
Jokic,
I mean,
we
see it. We'll see it like at times where you just see Jokic bringing the ball up, and you're like, that is a big man.
Also, to be fair, Dallas does not have nearly the offensive guys around Luka that Jokic has. So
True.
Definitely plays a major part there. So yeah, go ahead. Gordon at 69. I won't argue there. If he's in your lineups, the numbers have bared out that he's worthy of your consideration here this evening. Jaren Jackson played just 24 minutes. You know the story with Triple J. Love him in tournaments. Has great upside if he can just stay out of foul trouble. The shot blocking's elite. The rebounding's been pretty good lately. Hard to get rebounds when Steven Adams is grabbing 20 a night, but 6, 7, and 8 in those 3 games. So like he's at least doing his part when Adams is off the floor to pull down some boards there. You got your Utah guys. Vanderbilt had a pretty good game the other day. Doesn't play 30 minutes, but 14 and 9 is kind of his bag. Is giving you 28 or more in 3 of 4. I love Kelly O, especially against a team like Houston. It feels like
revenge.
Feels like it fits his skill set potentially. He's averaging 26 fantasy points in 2 games while shooting. Oh, how about this? Only 4 total 3-point attempts for Kelly O against Houston this year. This is a guy
not
that
a lot
takes,
of shots in general.
Yeah, not a lot of shots in general. Not a lot of shots lately either. He only took 2 shots for Sacramento. I don't know what's going on there, but
that was a foul trouble game. True. I feel like sometimes he gets in foul trouble and just like takes his offense away. Like he's just like, I'm just gonna be very passive here.
5 fouls in 2 of the last 3 as well. But always a tournament play, especially on a small slate. Right, he goes out there, he knocks down 2 early threes, and like you're cooking with Kelly O. So
your boy Jabari has coming off a monster
right
game.
Like talk about a guy where the price doesn't feel like it's catching up, right? Like.
Well, it's just because he's so inconsistent. Like he has this game where he goes 14-13 and he does everything. And then look at the 4 games prior. It's like he's not even close to paying salary off. Sure. And then the 2 games prior, it's 34-45 fantasy points. And then like it's just
he's a rookie, right? He goes through
the rookie exactly exactly bingo. He's a rookie. So
2 games against Utah though, 33 fantasy points, 15-9. Not only 9 of 20 shooting, so not bad.
Great. There. I think this is a great game environment for Houston in general. No Eric Gordon, but probably. I mean, he hasn't played a back-to-back, so that's just me assuming. So, likely no Eric Gordon, and then against a team who plays no defense, like it's really, really, really ideal situations for Houston here.
Yep, I agree with you there. Wish they would play Tari Eason more, but they just don't.
They just don't.
Marcus Morris also a good play here. Even if Paul George is active, he's just been giving you 20 or so fantasy points. Would you play Aldama? Any interest in Aldama here at 34?
Maybe. If there's no Brandon Clark. Brandon Clark is listed questionable, and I think you could probably play Brandon Clark too.
I would play Brandon Clark if he's active, yeah. I was kind of touting up Brandon Clark there for a little bit in certain matchups as value plays, especially when you think the blowouts were coming. He had that stretch where he was just kind of hovering around the 20-minute mark, and he's a fantasy point per minute guy. So, I like Brandon Clark a lot if he's active here tonight. I got nobody else, though, power forward.
Now, on the center.
Okay. Jokic, okay, don't need to talk about it. You can just play him.
Hold on. We're going to build soon. You can only build one. Are you building with Luka? Or are you
I'm gonna build Luka. Luka. Again, if you want to play Jokic, you can. Don't need to go into it. Only 50 fantasy points against him the first time. 48 fantasy points the other day. Last couple of games here, we talk about it, right? 70 against Boston was great, but 51, 59, 60, 48, like for that price, like it's good. Right, we know what he can do, but Luka's been doing it. So
every night.
If he goes up for 95 like he did against Charlotte, then what, I accept the loss. Again, Wendell Carter against Steven Adams. Would you play that matchup?
Yeah, I think it's a really good spot. I think both centers in this game are great plays, and I think Şengün as well. I know 22 minutes, very very frustrating, but
hasn't played either of the games against Utah this year.
such a good spot.
I just think
Such
it's
a good
weird that
spot.
he hasn't played those games yet.
He's been in and out of the lineup a bunch this year. But dude, like 31.
31
He
fantasy
has
points,
so
22
many.
minutes. Yeah.
I'm not. Look, I'm just gonna say this. He has so many Nikola Jokic qualities. It's crazy. He just needs to like play.
But why are they only playing him 22 minutes against New Orleans?
I don't know. I don't know.
Like,
I mean,
foul trouble against Dallas. Foul trouble against Dallas. Back-to-back games.
it could be the back. It could be the back that's like limiting him a little bit. Because he did go into that game with a back injury, so maybe that's the reason. But please just give this man more minutes, please, I'm begging you.
Mm-hmm. Walker Kessler off the bench has still been pretty decent. Always a foul trouble risk there.
Sure is.
Zubac's, maybe has to play at least the minutes.
Why? 49. Yeah, I mean, look, the guy is a ultimate boomer bust. There's 40 fantasy point upside. I think more so if Paul George sits because Paul George is a good rebounding guard.
Yeah.
So I'd be willing to get there for sure.
Mo Bamba played 18 minutes last night. Could be a value play. We were gonna play Robert Williams the other day. I'll just play Robert Williams again. At 4,100.
Yep. It's even cheaper than it was the other day.
Yep, even cheaper than it was the other day. All right, let's build. I'm just gonna plug Rob Will at 41 in our center spot now. I'm gonna go to Luka. Gonna go to Conley. And where's Conley? 57. I'm on shooting guard. That's why I can't find him. Conley, 57. You like Kawhi, or do you want to see if we can double spend here on somebody?
No, we don't need a double spend. That's our lineup's going to be in shambles.
All right, Luka, Leonard, Rob Will, Conley, 4,800 a player. So shooting guard, power forward, utility here.
Jabari Smith.
Yep, Jabari.
Marcus Morris. Yep. We have
Jabari, power forward. $4,900 for shooting guard, forward, and utility.
You could play. I don't know if you want to play KJ Martin, but he provides us a lot of value.
I'll do Martin. That's fine. We'll do Martin, assuming that he is. Obviously, this lineup is contingent on Eric Gordon being ruled out. So.
And Paul George. Well, I guess not.
I'm
Paul
playing
George
Leonard anyways. But,
yeah.
5,600 for shooting guard and a utility play.
How much? 56.
Yeah. Let's see.
Beasley at 5K.
Do you want to plug Adams in the util?
He's been good. It's been really good. Yeah, we could play. Yeah, we could play Steven Adams.
And then a $5,500 shooting guard. Beasley. Yeah, Beasley's fine.
For tournaments, yeah.
If Suggs is out, would you play Cole Anthony at all or no? He's been missing a lot of shots. Not a lot of shots the last couple.
Yeah, I like the 30 minutes, but
better spot for Beasley here.
Better spot for Beasley, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, so we had $500 left over. Let's see here, 6,200 utility if we want to get off of Adams. Dinwiddie. It would be the upgrade there if we want to do it, but probably not.
I don't. Nah.
Okay. All right.
I think the Dinwiddie over 6K dream is dead until further notice.
Okay. Trying to see here. Yeah, there's no real other upgrades. All right, that's what we're gonna rock with then. Contingent on KJ Eric Gordon being ruled out. Otherwise, we need like a 4K forward, which. I guess we could go with Contra or somebody like that if that happens. We can also just play Eric Gordon.
We'll just have to make it. I mean, I'm like 95% sure Eric Gordon doesn't play because he hasn't played a back-to-back this year.
Okay. All right. That's a lineup done. Luka, Beasley, Leonard. I want to keep on saying Kennard, but it's not. Luka, Beasley, Leonard, Jabari Smith, Rob Williams, Mike Conley, KJ Martin, Steven Adams. Playbook will be up today. We'll be in the Discord if you have any questions. And James and I will be back for Friday's podcast. Talk to you later.